Thanks, Dr. Kabongo, for making time to have a chat with me about your article that we're publishing in Missio Africanas. Could you take a few minutes just to introduce yourself and introduce InnerCHANGE, which is the organization that actually you discuss in the article, so that our readers can get to know a bit more about you and your work?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kuyani, for giving me the opportunity to be on this platform. Yes, so my name is Kasebo Timothée Luc Kabongo. I go by Luc Kabongo. I was born in the DR Congo and moved to South Africa as a refugee in 2002, and as a single man, and got married here, and I've been living in South Africa ever since. And so in 2004, I joined a missional community that was really connected to InnerCHANGE. InnerCHANGE is a global movement, though. It's a Christian order among the poor, and we are in 15 different countries around the world, including the UK. We are in London and in Glasgow, Scotland. And InnerCHANGE really focuses on raising disciples of Jesus, as well as local leaders as agents of hope in their own communities.
All right. And Soshanguve, as you say here, it's 35 kilometers outside of Pretoria.
Yes.
That's
it's north of Pretoria, and kind of a typical geographic setup of the apartheid South Africa, where the poor were basically kept in locations away from cities. Kind of a good way to hide poverty and marginalization in one city.
Would it feel like Soweto?
Yes. Yeah, a smaller version of Soweto.
All right. And I'm intrigued how the focus of InnerCHANGE is on the poor and the marginalized.
Yeah.
What's the theological underpinning for that work?
Our biblical foundation is taken from Micah 6:8, that talks about actively love mercy and walk humbly before our God.
Sure.
And from that, as a team in South Africa, we've been able to include Jeremiah 27, really 1 through 12, particularly 7, where it talks about seeking the peace and prosperity of the city you live in.
Okay, Jeremiah 29.
Yeah, 29, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 7.
Right. Yes, okay.
The peace and the prosperity of the city you live in.
Sure.
So, and we connect that to basically acting justly in reaching out to the marginalized, loving mercy, learning to be compassionate,
yes.
And really, and the source of doing that comes from our obedience, our walk with God. So just then missiologically, whatever we do in the community or in society is connected to our desire to be agents of peace and prosperity in our society.
Oh, that sounds exciting. That sounds really, really exciting. Yeah. So what's the argument that you're making in the essay?
Yeah, so the argument came from an observation around us, not only in the township of Soshanguve, but other communities of poverty, where the church it's a very recognizable face. Basically, at every street corner there is a building, and even at my house is basically across the street from a church. Yet the church really focuses only on personal piety, kind of drawing people to away from the world to Jesus, and the church is unable to connect its mission to being that agent of peace, a good, that tangible agent of peace in our community of poverty. And it also comes with really our understanding of in InnerCHANGE of poverty. The founder of our organization defines poverty as the lack of love.
Oh,
and
really?
really seeing poverty and marginalization around us shows that clear lack of love that could be blamed to government, that could be blamed to so many structures around the world with capitalism and others, as well as the lack of love that we see amongst ourselves as neighbors. And definitely the church as an institution is the contributor to the lack of love, because it is involved in the community.
I mean, which is quite a statement, right? Because, of course, I mean, within the Christian circles, God is love, right?
Yes.
And so, as partners with God in God's mission in the world, we're supposed to be loving people.
Yes.
And yet, you're arguing that that is not really exactly what's happening.
Yes, true. Because and I think and the church as an institution through its local denominations still affirms the fact that God is love. I think many of our neighbors, even many of my fellow Africans, keep asking the question, what is love? And I think that's where the challenge is. Many of us, church ministers, are unable to really answer what love is.
And why do you think that is the reason?
Well, because our neighbors ask that question of what is love, because they have an experiential knowledge of the feeling of love through the few things that happen around them, in terms of being cared for, in terms of being protected, because all of us as human beings long for, security, equity, prosperity, and those things communicate love to many of our neighbors, and they don't see that. So then when the church talks to them about God being love, they are looking at the churches. How is the church an agent of making that love present to us? And I think that's where there seems to be a rift.
You have some 2 paragraphs on what you call a dualistic spirituality.
Yeah.
And can you say something about that?
Yes. It's basically the church continual communication of the distinction between the kingdom of God and the world, and those being really separated, and then all human beings are meant to be citizens of the kingdom, and that seems to be the focus on this personal piety.
Sure.
And the world is a place to move out of. It's a temporary place that is evil.
Yes.
So and I feel like, and that is there is and that is influenced by a lot of things actually outside the Bible, philosophical things, from Greek or Western philosophy that we know have influenced the New Testament. But I think my heart has been to try and read the Bible so that I could be in touch with this messianic spirituality that I see Jesus live by basically healing the sick. It's really a practical thing, and explaining to us that the kingdom is good news because it brings healing both physically as well as spiritually. And so then there is that dualistic thing with the prioritization of the spiritual over the material.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
You talk about prophetic witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
For me, the prophetic witness it's basically the courage or the boldness that individual followers of Jesus or Christians should take to to go back to Jesus himself and soak into his messianic spirituality and say, we want to be good news in tangible ways and communicate the concept of what it means to be good news in bringing people to the Lord. And I think Africa as a continent, Soshanguve as a context, need that. One of our roles, I know one of my roles that I prefer is to be that agent of peace, that's to be an agent of bringing the love of Jesus present in ways that can be understood, and invite others to do the same, so that it's not only a church, but can be a communal movement for Africans to become agents of their own hope. And that's my understanding of that prophetic witnessing that is needed.
I have to ask this: the message you are sharing, which I resonate with, has a risk factor to it. The work that you do, say in Soshanguve, risks a lot of things, right? I mean, it's a gospel that, to an extent, goes against the prosperity stuff that we hear. A lot of the prophetic movements that are emerging in Africa at the moment.
Yes.
How do you negotiate that risk factor in your understanding of mission?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think, yeah, that's a tricky question for me, to be honest with you, my brother, because it has brought a lot of loneliness in terms of companionship with other ministers, because what we do in terms of prioritizing social matters is seen by some as not the mandate of the church, and others as it should not be a priority.
Sure.
And some argue that this require a lot of resources, money that we don't have because we are poor in Soshanguve, and money is outside of Soshanguve. But I guess it's like even having this conversation, such as, you know what, we may be poor when it comes to money, but just the people, our neighbors, the people of Soshanguve should be our primary asset to be able to achieve this goal. And that's not something that people, a lot of my peers value. So the cost has been really not having much friendship in the community.
Sure.
Another cost has been just because InnerCHANGE is really a small organization. We've got a small office, and we do a lot of things. Like, basically, we are dependent on people's generosity in terms of space.
Sure.
And we've gone to church to request for space. Believe you me, some churches have said no. Most of them charge us a fee to be able to serve their own members. In things like whatever. And the thing is, like, there's that clear disconnect between what we try to do and what the churches believe that are their values or priorities.
And the hope is that as we go forward, that disconnect is going to become smaller and smaller.
That's our hope, yes. And we are seeing that, as we've been able to develop some of the members of these churches who have gone to their churches as assets and started not only serving their churches in creative ways, but also having that constantly asking questions about, why should we limit our programs to just our membership? Kind of learning to be outward focused, which has been a challenge, but that's some pastors are warming up to that challenge.
All right.
And allowing, especially their young folks, to explore what it means to be community-based versus just church-centric or congregation-centric.
I love that language.
Yeah.
When we know that African Christianity is still exploding, it's still growing in unprecedented numbers. What do you think is the future of mission among African peoples? What I mean, you in South Africa, you in Soshangove, you're seeing people respond to the call to become missionaries in your own context. How do you see that developing?
For me, really looking at Africa as a continent, I think one of the future of mission in Africa will have to do with churches thinking more and more about what I'm calling the democratization of mission, which means seeing each individual African as a potential missionary. And for me, the simple concept of a missionary is like, how can a simple person, an ordinary person, become an agent of hope in their own community in practical ways? And I like to use really Jesus's last words in John when he talks about, you will be known. Love, and you will be known by the way you love others.
Sure.
I know that every one of us has the ability to love, and I want Africans to be known by the way they love one another and the way they love others. And I think there's just a lot of examples from our politicians to our leaders in churches of the lack of love.
Sure.
Although we profess, what we try to do as InnerCHANGE, when you spend time with people, we try to be really, I don't know, some people would call it simplistic in our approach to missiology and say, learn to be a lover.
Okay.
And in a contagious way, and develop other love.
Sure. Oh, that's exciting. That's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, final question: what are you reading? Who is informing your missiology? Who is influencing your thought systems around issues of missiology and mission in Africa?
Emmanuel Katongole has been huge to me, and my fellow Congolese Kamana, because they talk a lot about political theology, and I think I'm learning more and more really to go back to the the original or a definition of politics, which is really caring for the city.
Sure.
And so basically understanding God in a way that would empower me to care for my city, for my township. And I think Katongole and Kamana really helped me understand that. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I love that.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time. You have any question for me?
No question. I just want to thank you for this opportunity that you are giving to African scholars to express themselves and also to be able to talk to Africa through the things that they are learning and hopefully to the whole world.
Sure.
Yes, I think it's really a great sacrifice that you are making, which is also a great way to expand the kingdom of God through your resources and your skills.